Well, we're back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod, your very own Golden Gopher football podcast at thecollegehuddle.com. Man, it's feeling like it's been a little bit, kind of coming off a high note, two Big Ten wins in a row, undefeated against California. Had a nice little break. Kurt, Max, how you both feeling today?
Doing good. Glad to be back. It's felt like a long, more than a week. It's felt like a long time being away from you guys, but glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm doing good. You guys do anything fun during the bye week besides just watch football?
Just watched football.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
I
watch some
I
football.
tore up my basement floor, dug through concrete. Not dug, sledgehammered it out. But my wife said it was bad timing because the baby's so close to coming. But I thought it was just bad timing because of all the good slates of college football that were on TV. But anyway, I got it done. It's torn up. It's ready to go for the plumbing work that needs to be done. But other than that, yeah, I just watch college football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The landscape of college football right now, fellas. I don't know if there's like a clear cut number one team. Uh, I mean, there's great teams. Could probably say right in this moment who will win, but I just feel like this playoff that's coming up is going to be. I think it's got to be the team that's the hottest by the end of the year is probably going to make a run for it, and I can't definitively say who's going to win. Maybe the
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gophers.
that's right. Well, we're still in like the odds. If you go down to like the 0.1, like the less than 1% chance, we're still listed there to make the college football playoffs. So, like I said last show, everything is still in front of the Gophs. Um, yeah, as far as your point about who's the best team right now, if you're talking about like just like most talented, I'm with you. There's a couple teams you could throw out there. I still lean Georgia. I think it's just because of their success they've had the past couple of years. But if you're talking about like most deserving to be ranked number one right now, I think that's got to go to the Ducks. I think they by far have the most impressive resume, the undefeated schedule. Um, but you know, I get what you're saying. As far as just talking, like if we had to bet on who would win right now, I think I would have to go Georgia just because they're Georgia. Co's here, so you're saying there's a chance? Yep. Vegas is still giving us the Gophers a chance to make the playoff. Probably need some help. Obviously, you got to win out. Um, hey, but chaos has happened and will happen in college football. So that's right. Just keep winning
Right.
and see where you end up.
Yeah. And speaking of chaos, though, team, like you said, there isn't really a clear cut like top team. A team that's definitely in that top tier, but has looked at times the worst, like they're the worst of the best, has been Alabama. Would you guys agree? Like every game is just chaotic, and I mean, there's challenges with Kalen DeBoer's first year there and transitioning away from Saban. Like that's a huge difference. But it's so clear like how different they play, like the
Yeah,
mistakes, the sloppiness, the
right.
being all over the place. Like
Right.
it's
I think
weird.
talent wise, I'm there with you. They like Jalen Milrow is amazing, like 90% of the time. But just because of those mistakes they've made, like for me, I think after last week's game, I know it was Tennessee, who's a good team, but I think now they are officially like down a tier. I don't see them as a serious contender. Not they still have a chance, but I wouldn't put them in like the top five teams anymore to like win, I guess.
Yeah. Like they
But
have the
I get what
biggest
you're saying.
spread. Like they
Yeah.
could beat all of them. They could also.
Right.
I mean, they lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, they
Like
might
we've
miss the
seen it.
playoffs altogether.
Right.
Yeah. If they were like the 12 seed or whatever, like one of the lowest seeds though, and you're a top seed having to go against them, I'd probably be a little worried. But they are defeatable. They are, but I feel like if they put it all together and don't make those mistakes, they're a really good team. But I'd say that's probably all the top 12 teams in the nation. So it'll be exciting. But back to your very own Golden Gophers, fellas. I just wanted to start our show today. You know, we're halfway through the season, over halfway. We're sitting at 4-3 now. How are you both feeling about the season thus far? You know, I just kind of wanted to get a sense of how we think we're doing, our expectations going forward, and at the beginning of the year, if you all remember, we all had our kind of season outlook and our wins prediction for the year. Uh, Wanted to see if that's changed at all for either one of you. Max, why don't we start with you? How are you feeling about these Gophers?
Yeah, I'd say at this moment I'm feeling good because I feel like things are trending in the right direction from game one. I was thinking back to that North Carolina game already feels like a year ago. And I feel like a lot of our critiques and complaints after that game and some of the following games I think have gotten cleaned up. There's still a lot left to fix. But overall, I feel like, especially offensively, things have moved in the right direction. The defense, like I know we talked about early on, the tackling was so bad, and now it seems like that's cleaned up quite a bit. And the defense has surprisingly been the bright spot of the team, I would say, especially the secondary, which I think was our biggest question mark coming in and kind of what we thought might really hinder this team, and it's actually been the strength. So overall, I'm feeling good. I think our preseason predictions, I mean, our record wise, still right in front of us. Getting 7, maybe 8 wins is possible. 6 is looking probably like the most likely for being realistic. But yeah, overall, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I wrote down the same thing as far as just like thoughts so far. As one of the highlights is Max, you brought up the secondary. I believe we're still a top 10 passing defense in the country. I believe after even last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. So yeah, and that was the biggest question with Tyler Newman moving on. What kind of playmakers were we going to have? And basically, Justin Wally has just returned to top form, and Coy Parrott has been everything as advertised. So, and Kerry Brown too, and pass coverage. Just the pass coverage in general really has been pretty dang good, and that's something I was very skeptical of. I didn't know how it would look coming into this year. If we're going to go slightly negative, the offensive line's probably the most perplexing as to why they're not performing better. I still think there's little moments here and there where they have put it together, like the USC game, parts, certain drives in the UCLA game, they put it together. So, that's there. And then if we're going to go one more negative, it's just our kicking game right now, not being able to have a for sure thing back there on the field goals. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but those are just like the 3 bullet points I would say of stuff that was kind of opposite of what we thought it was going to be at this point. Obviously the secondary being a good one, and I still think the offensive line can and will turn it around. I know we're 7 games in. It hasn't always been the prettiest, but PJ keeps talking about it, and I know some of it's just protecting the players, but I really do think that teams are focusing on stopping the run. I mean, we kind of talked about it last game. UCLA was bringing a lot of pressure, and they had like 8 guys in the box, 7 guys in the box, like a lot. So they had the numbers there, which is always going to be tough to run against. Obviously they got to be better than what they were. You can't just let a guy come through up the middle and touch, which we saw a couple times. But I think the O-line is like a target of every team probably that we're up against, and I think they're going to get better as we finish the year here. Coach says he still has some anxiety from that first game. Yeah, it stinks. If it's probably the 3rd game of the year, 2nd game of the year, you probably win it. North Carolina is a vastly different team than where they were at the start of the year as well. Although their running back is still good. He's still up there as far as yards and forced missed tackles, but it is what it is. I feel like we could have that one, the Michigan one, and honestly, when you're up a touchdown and a half over Iowa, you feel like in some aspect you could have had that one too. But it is what it is. We're sitting here 4-3. Some tough games up ahead, but I predicted 8-4. It could happen. I agree 6-6 is probably more likely. You got to get Maryland here. I think your next easiest game, it's not, none of these games are easy, but on the road at Rutgers is probably the 2nd easiest game you have left. Seems like they've kind of gotten dinged up a little and aren't quite as ferocious as they were at the start of the year. And then Illinois and Wisconsin on the road and home against Penn State. So if you can win, 3 of those, get to 7 wins, I think that's really strong. And maybe you can go, 4-1 here to close it out. But we'll see.
Yeah. I got to say, I'm impressed not only with the improvement of the team, but I do feel like, I feel like the coaching too has definitely improved. Not to say that it was bad, but I feel like their way of coaching this specific team has evolved. We see it with the offense with Brosmer. At first, we're kind of sticking to the traditional sort of Gophers, you know, sort of philosophy. But then it seems like, now they're going towards a little more tempo, maybe a little bit. We're probably not going to see that right off the gates, but I feel like they're definitely more comfortable just going with a tempo offense and just seeing how it goes. Um, PJ deciding to go for it um, against USC to win the game. I mean, that was awesome to see him finally do something like that. And I don't know why that would change for the rest of the year, that sort of approach of just step on the gas and just win the ball
Yeah.
game. But I'm just happy with the improvements. One of the things that was a little disappointing is the line. I'll kind of echo what Kurt said there. Definitely wasn't a spot that I thought was going to need some help. Sure, you could get maybe a couple more guys in the portal, but I thought that they would be outstanding and our running game would just flourish. Hasn't really been the strong suit of this offense. But, still pretty happy with what they've been doing outside with the wide receivers. And, I still think that, both Darius Taylor and Marcus Major have something in them. They just got to get a good push up front.
Yeah.
And certainly these
Also,
last,
I was just gonna say
yeah,
it's good on Darius Taylor for still being an impact player, even
right.
with us not maybe being as dominant up front, moving as much bodies as we thought we were going to be able to for him. So he still found a way to impact the games, and that's a big credit to him and Max Brosmer, who's been
Right.
everything as advertised, everything we could have hoped for right now.
Yeah. And I just, if you're looking at season outlook, I think that these final, 5 games are crucial, right? I'm pleased with how the first half of the season went. And, to echo kind of what Ko is saying, anxiety from the first game, yeah, it stinks. You miss a field goal at the end when honestly, you probably could have won by a whole score, but at the end of the game, you had an opportunity to put it away and you missed the field goal. Oh, well. Um, but really, there's a chance that the Gophers right now could be 7-0. It's not ludicrous to say that. The 3 losses that the Gophers had were winnable games, and they just didn't find the other side of the win column. So, yeah, I just think these last games again. This one I think is really crucial. You're going to get maybe it's wrong of me to say toss ups against a Penn State team, an Illinois team, a Wisconsin team. But for the sake of argument, let's say those are toss up games, right? I feel like this game is definitely one you have to win. Certainly the Rutgers game. Maryland's a good team. But I still think that the Gophers end up 7-5, fellas. I think that is a doable thing.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think most of the games left on the schedule are coin flip games. The only one I wouldn't probably have in there is Penn State right now, just with
Yeah.
how strong they were looking. But if we come out and prove, I know maybe Maryland won't be. We'll get into this a little bit, but maybe Maryland's not the best team that this will showcase in against. But if we can come out and just show that we can stop the run, like when we want to, and we sell it and stop it, I'll start feeling a little better. To me, I know we talked about the offensive line. Our run defense, I think, is still this team's biggest weakness overall, because I think that might be something that, it was okay against UCLA, but that's been really the only team I felt like we've been able to fully shut down that was of equal talent ish, So um, I think the run defense is the biggest question mark for me going forward. But if that gets shored up or improved coming off the bye week, then yeah, I think a lot of these games are definitely winnable.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about it then, fellas. The Gophers have the Maryland Terrapins for their homecoming game right after a bye. Kurt, tell me, what are you liking about this Maryland offense?
Well, I don't know if it's what I like or what scares me, but they can throw the ball over the yard. I mean, they throw it the fourth most in the country. Statistically, they have the eighth best passing offense in the nation. Have about 309 yards per game. Rushing, 101st, 117 yards per game. In their last three, actually in the Big Ten play, that's been lower than that. So they haven't been able to run the ball very well. They're in a way they're kind of similar to the Gophers because I think they had the same amount of sacks, same amount of takeaways as us as a team, and then they like to throw the ball, and I know they throw it better than us overall as far as yardage goes, but just similarly led offenses, I should say, maybe for these guys. And then obviously, I mean, you're going against Ty Felton, probably the best receiver in the Big Ten right now. He leads in catches, yards, and touchdowns, I believe, still. 64 catches, 800 yards, and 6 touchdowns on the year right now. I mean, it makes me feel good that our strength is our passing defense. So I think it's like strength on strength in this matchup when you look at Maryland's offense and their quarterback has made some big time throws. I was listening to the Locked On Maryland guy. I don't know what all goes into this stat because he didn't elaborate on it from PFF, but um, there's guys Billy Edwards, right? I get him in the Billy Edwards. I
Yep.
get him in the UCLA guy confused. Both just pretty good white guys back there. Built similarly. He's top 5 in the country for what they call big time throws. So he does just seems like multiple times a game just dial up some big shots and puts them right on the money. Helps when you have a receiver like Felton out there. But that's definitely what stands out. It's just very explosive team, but not necessarily at the running back position. I mean, the running back is good. He does have a 75-yard touchdown carry on the year, so he's got that ability. But it's not been their game is to ground and pound this year. Outing says any relation? No, I'm not related to Ty Felton, not that I know of, but maybe similar traits though. Both fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, Kurt, I mean, our D backs are going to be ready to go this game. This is Billy Edwards Jr. He leads all of NCAA in completions with 195, and he leads the Big Ten in passing yards. And yeah, Ty Felton leads the conference in receptions and receiving yards. But looking at watching some of their games back, they can be explosive. You are right, but schematically, their offense is a lot of quick, short passes. It's a lot of screens, quick hitches. It's almost like a wider extension of the run game in a way, where it kind of lulls the defense into kind of falling asleep a little bit. Where that's when Billy Edwards will hit the pump fake on the bubble screen and they go deep, or the widest wide receiver will run a double move and catch everyone napping, and that's when he can hit Ty Felton just streaking down the sideline. So that to me is the scariest thing, is that they can consistently, they're running like almost 80 plays a game. They're just consistently hitting these quick short passes. Like there's really gonna be no chance for us to get much pressure, I don't think, because the ball's in and out of his hands so fast. But as long as our D backs can stay disciplined and not fall for the bait every time with the quick passes, that's gonna be pretty big for our defense.
Yeah. Big game for the safeties too. Just
Yeah.
most of the time when they're healthy, it's going to be Kerry Brown, Coy out there. Hopefully Kerry Brown's back, but a big game for them to keep their eyes disciplined, like you said, Max, and not get lulled to sleep by the constant quick passing game. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Shody. I kind of cut you off there.
No, that's fine. You guys both pretty much nailed it on the head. You got Billy Edwards, who's top 10 quarterback in FBS when it comes to completion percentage and passing yards a game. I mean, he went 39 and 50 against USC. Almost 80% of his passes were completion. I mean, yeah, we know that USC's defense isn't tremendous, but to be able to complete almost 80% of your passes is an impressive feat. And you both said it, Ty Felton, the long lost cousin of Kurt. He's just a great receiver, a beast in the Big Ten, probably the best in the Big Ten. So, yeah, it's going to be important to shut him down specifically, but also just try and play good defense, I guess, in the secondary. Fortunately, they're not running the ball that effectively, and I know you guys remember long ago when, what was his name, Jake Butt, or what was his name? Not
Which one? Jake Butt's the tight end for Michigan.
Yeah,
Are you thinking
right.
of the?
Yeah,
You're thinking of Funk?
Funk.
Funk?
That's it.
Yeah.
He was just running all over us, looking like Barry Sanders. It was crazy, and fortunately, I don't think they have well, they could have someone stacked in the back there that might run all over us, but
Not
looks
quite
like
to
it's
that
going to be
caliber.
right. It's just going to be going through the air in this game, and yeah, we'll kind of see how that works.
I
It's not
hope.
your.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's not your prototypical run game, but like Roman Hemby, their top back, like he is their, I think he's third on their team in receptions too. It's like they are going to get him the ball one way or another, and he's a solid running back.
He's fast. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's the same thing with Maryland. Like they always got, like Coach says, twitchy athletes. They got athletes all over at every skill position. It's just, can you stay disciplined? Can you execute with what's in front of you and just make the plays and wrap up? At times the defense has this year. At times they haven't. So for me, my keys for the defense in this game is corners, because the corners are going to be asked to tackle a lot as well. So the corners are just going to have to be on their game. Wally and Robinson, they've done a pretty good job at tackling this year. Hopefully they can both stay healthy in this one. So for me, I think the corners got to have a big game. And then, I still have Anthony Smith and John Joyner jotted down just to generate pressure. I know it's a quick passing game, but if you can just, get in there, make them uncomfortable, hit them a little bit, some of those quicker throws. The nice thing about quicker throws, if you can get some pressure, is that if they do, go off course, if they are inaccurate, there's a lot of times you have a lot of guys around and you can create some turnovers that way. So
Bat some balls.
Yeah. I did want to bring this up. I didn't know if you had this down, should he have something to talk about, but during PJ's presser the other day, he was asked about what he liked, what he thought, his thoughts on the defense basically at this point and what he wants to see better. And one of the things he said was more takeaways. And we already have like the fourth or fifth most takeaways in the country, I believe, as a defense. So I hope that happens, but I just don't know how reliable of a stat you can really lean on with that is creating more takeaways than you're already creating. It seems like a blessed thing to get as many as you're getting, because the other team has so much control over turnovers. I don't know. Part of me feels like he said that because he knows that the defense is maybe maxing out their talent with what they can do as far as against the run and whatnot. So in order to be more consistently getting off the field, maybe creating those turnovers. I don't know. I just thought those comments were interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would take more if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, is that just a challenge to the defense?
Maybe he's just assuming more will happen now that Coe's probably like a full-time starter now. I don't know.
Maybe we're overestimating how much PJ Fleck really knows about this team statistically.
Oh, man. We got to get over the homecoming hump. Yeah, we have lost the last couple. I haven't. Well, Bowling Green, that was a homecoming game, wasn't it? We don't have to talk about that. And the Purdue game, that was a homecoming game. What was last year's homecoming game? We had to have won.
Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was there.
So we're over it.
Yeah,
broken.
that got a little dicey. But yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
homecoming and off a bye. There is something about this game that like
I meant to look that up.
no one is talking about this game as being a trap game, which I feel like immediately makes it a trap. Like no one's saying like I don't
Well,
know.
I don't think it can be a trap because if you're overlooking Maryland, then you have just
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
completely have the wrong outlook of yourself if you're this Minnesota team
Right.
overlooking Maryland. I mean,
And maybe a trap is the wrong word. Maybe it's more of just like that we're primed to come out flat. Like I
I
don't
hope
know.
not. But I mean, if anything, I would hope Maryland is a team that you'd think coming out flat after kind of a, I won't say miraculous, but a pretty epic come from behind late in the game win against USC. Then traveling back, decent ways to the Midwest, 2:30 game, our homecoming. So hopefully we're up for it. You know, I get what you're saying. Maybe Gopher fans aren't looking at Maryland as the threat that Maryland is, but I don't know. I don't look at us any better than this Maryland team, to be honest. Like I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
No.
spread opened at 3.5, and so it's basically a pick 'em, according to Vegas, and I think that's pretty spot on. But I get what you're saying. There's always, you never know how PJ's going to monitor the bye week. I meant to look that up. I had one job this bye week, off week, and look at his record coming off the buys, and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But
All right. Well, let's transition to the Rutgers defense. I'll kind of mention just a couple of good things that these Terrapins have. Good up front, very good up front, and I think that that's going to be a little difficult for our line, especially if we're trying to run the football. It's against UCLA. We didn't really run the ball effectively. I think that Darius Taylor had 30 yards, 60 yards. I don't remember, but
we didn't run it very well.
we
Yeah.
didn't really run it very well. Their defensive line was pretty good at UCLA, but I'm looking at this Terrapins defense, and I'm not so sure it's going to be good for us. At the end of the game, too, their linebacker was able to block the field goal attempt with like a minute remaining. Donnell Brown, and knowing our special teams unit, I know it's a little different than the defense, but just kind of watch out for that. I think every point's going to be important, so line's got to make their blocks. But if you look at their secondary too, USC was able to carve them up in that first half. I'm not saying that we're going to be able to do the exact same thing as USC is able to do offensively, but if we do those sort of tempo, sort of look and maybe take some shots against their defense in their secondary, I think that the Gophers have a shot. But yeah, this team is pretty much similar, I think, offensively and defensively to the Gophers.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest difference is they just haven't had the same pass defense that the Gophers had this year.
Right.
They're 123rd passing defense in the country. The Maryland Terrapins are. There we go. 288 yards per game, but 300 yards if you just go the last 3 Big Ten games. So people are gashing them in the air. You're going to need Max Brosmer to be efficient. They do have Jordan Phillips, 330-pound nose tackle. So I'm curious to see how young Greg Johnson does off the bye week here at center. There's some talk about maybe switching those guys. Ryan Burns brought it up of how Ashton Beers, who's been that guard spot, it has been the backup center all year. So if they look at switching, because Johnson had some success last year at guard, I'm guessing it's not going to be a different lineup. I think you're going to still see the same thing. Knowing how PJ likes to, once he's got something set in his mind of how he thinks it should roll, that it'll go. So I think they're just counting on improvement, to be honest. So he will have his hands full with that nose tackle. But again, I still think is low ranking as their pass defense is. I still think that the Gophers' best offense, it might sound obvious, is just a healthy mix. So getting a little bit more of a push up front, getting Marcus Major more involved so Darius Taylor doesn't have to catch 15 balls a game to get all of his workload in. Just getting all your weapons involved in this game early on is going to be big. Just keeping off balance. I know they got the 23rd rushing defense in the nation, but again, I looked at their last 3 Big Ten games. Their average on the year is 109. In Big Ten play, it's been closer to 140. So they're giving up a little bit on the ground. I know it's still been better than what we've done, but there's some yards to be got there, and we said that against USC, and I think a similar approach can be taken against Maryland.
Yeah, and still have to be careful though, because this is a defense that's been, like you said, I mean they're not the greatest against the pass, giving up, what you said, over 280 yards a game, and I think I saw it was like 8 point something, over 8 yards per pass too. They're giving up, so they're getting chunked. But opportunistic in that they are averaging like over 2.5 takeaways per game. How much of that is the offense is making mistakes against them? But I mean, they're still an athletic defense. And then, like you said, Spence, their defensive line is solid. They haven't really gotten home much in terms of like actually sacks or creating a lot of pressure. But they're a team that you can't just run around on or break contain on either. So, we'll see. It'll be kind of nice if Rosenberg can just have a clean pocket to throw in if guys are getting open. But if things do break down, it's kind of like, how much time is he going to really have to scramble? If they're not creating a lot of pressure, like, are they going to get through, or are they just going to be content kind of keeping him contained, let their athletic D-backs make plays in the secondary? But I guess we'll see. I don't know.
One thing I just want to throw out there, though, I mean, I'm sure they watched the UCLA film. I'd be shocked if they didn't start out blitzing with Darius out there, because, I mean, it basically took them away as a passing option. So hopefully the Gophers can counter that more quickly now. You think they would, especially coming off a bye week. And, a lot of people have been saying this, but we should use tempo more often if we start out slow. How great would an opening drive touchdown be? I don't know if we got one.
Yeah.
Maybe against Rhode Island. I still think we punted at first. So I don't know if we have an opening drive touchdown this year. That would be great to see. Just go down the field and get points and punch it in to get going.
Yeah. And I don't remember which press conference it was now, but PJ, he almost like brought it up, kind of like told on himself about the tempo and the offense. He kind of said like he must be hearing it. Like people were asking like, why don't we just go tempo more often? And he basically just said like, that's just not how our offense works. It's like,
well,
why?
Yeah, I get what he's saying, but like I don't think the way he answered that question, I felt like he was answering it like fans were saying, let's just be a hurry up offense now. I don't even think that's it. It's just like once it happens, like how many times now have we seen at the end of the first half, they go hurry up, and that kind of carries over now a little bit. Like it gets them going when they haven't done anything the whole first half. So how I would, ask to see it used is just if we are struggling, if you do punt your first 2 drives, maybe try it the next series out there. I don't think that's asking for much, but like you don't have to go if it's working. You get inside the goal line, then go ahead and get the packaging you want. But like just something to get the ball moving, because there's still too many wasted possessions by the offense. I mean, that whole first half against UCLA, you didn't do anything really. You had one nice drive that resulted in a missed field goal, and that was it. So that would be nice to see. The improvement is just more. I don't know if I'm sure there is a stat for this, but just like more balanced scoring throughout the game, not all or nothing in the second half. But that's what I'd like to see.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll give some keys to the games and score predictions. I would normally think of Max Brosmer here for a key of the game to kind of take us to victory, but I'm going to look at the receivers. Specifically, getting open and catching the football. Can we not have any drops in the first opening drive? Can we just not have any drops? Receivers, play a great game, best game of the season so far. Get open, make some catches, and maybe break one off downfield and, I don't know, get a long touchdown. It seems like we need something that, is electrifying. So that's number one. Number two, defensively, defensive line, get a push, get your hands up, bat some balls down. And three, sticking with the defense, secondary just has to have probably their best game of the year, just to stop anything from coming. And I'm very confident that they'll do it. You got Coy out there, you got Wally out there, Ethan Robinson, Gooseby, Brown. I mean, you got so many great talented players out there, and I think that they'll do just fine. So just key on those top guys, get Felton out of here, and I think the Gophers can do it. With that being said, I think that they win this convincingly. I'm going to go with 28-17 Gophers on homecoming. And yeah.
You're who Max was talking about then, as far as people not looking at this one seriously. 27. I would take it. I mean, it could. I mean, look at the Maryland team you saw the last 2 weeks. Northwestern was at home. They had Northwestern at home, and was that 37-10, something like that? They got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
And they turn around and upset USC. So Loxley teams in this point in the year, you never know what you're going to get. I'll just say that. As far as my keys to the game, I'll start with our defense. I meant to bring this up when we were talking about our defense. So Maryland, their defense has had a little bit of the same issue. They're 56th in third down defense. They get off the field 38% of the time. Your Golden Gophers, I complained about this last show, so I want to look it up. We are 120th in the country on third down defense. Teams are converting over 47% of their third downs against us. So my keys, get off the field on third down when you're not creating a turnover, because technically those drives have been going in for end zones at this point when you haven't getting a turnover. So get off the field on third downs. And make them one-dimensional. And I also put injuries with that, because Jalen Logan running back and healthy would be huge, so Anthony Smith can be rotated at both edge and inside. He's basically was a whole defensive tackle last game, so just being healthier up front, that would be massive. If we could get Mav back at linebacker, that would be massive, because, I know I'm not naive enough to think that all of a sudden we're going to be able to just, play 5 in the box and stop their running game. I'm sure they will be testing this run game. So if you can just, stop it when you got 6 guys in there and just make them one-dimensional, make them have to throw it all over the yard, which they already want to do, I think that helps you when you got Ja Joyner and Anthony Smith and Devin Eastern even creating pressure on them. So, get off the field and make them one-dimensional is what I wrote down for the defense. Offensively, I also won't look to a receiver. I want Lemeki Brockington more involved. He just looks faster to me out there, like running. I don't know. He just seems faster with the ball in his hand. And so I think he's someone you could target more often. I'm sure Daniel Jackson's going to be our leading receiver after this game, which is great. I'm glad to have him. But I just think Lemeki can be called on more in a more timely manner for deeper shots down the field. Because, one of the things we saw against UCLA, even when we were moving the ball a little bit in that first half, and even third quarter, they were happy to give us short throws. And most teams will give you those short throws and try and make a guy miss to turn him into something. It's a lot more efficient, obviously, to get chunk plays down the field. And teams know you're trying to throw it to Jackson. So I'm not saying you can't get those through Jackson in the air, but it's time for Elijah Spencer or Lemeki Brockington to be dialed up more often down the field, in my opinion, to make it easier to yourself and maybe get a touchdown in the first quarter of this game. So get Lemeki involved, timely shots down the field. And I think if the offensive line can handle the big heavies up front, as they call them, that big 330-pound nose tackle, I think we get it done. I'm going to go Gophers 27, Maryland 21. Gophers get a homecoming dub.
I like it. Yeah, I agree with all your guys' keys here. For me, my number one thing is just defensively, we have to be able to tackle in space, limit their athletes in the yard after catch, the receivers and the running backs. And the one thing too we didn't really touch on. I mean, Billy Edwards, you're not going to see a lot of design quarterback runs, but he is mobile. Like he can
Yeah.
move. So if things break down and he scrambles, like we still have to contain, which is also
We're too
that
fast.
much more dangerous. Right. So that's my number one key. Kind of off of that, I'm interested to see what the game plan is with Jack Henderson. We saw McMillan play the entire game against USC with coming in
point.
against a high passing attack, but I feel like this has got to be a little bit different just because it's not like USC where Maryland's not going to be throwing like deep down the field or like deeper routes. So I feel like Henderson's going to be key in blowing up some of those screens. So we'll see what that looks like. And then obviously, like you said, with the health of linebackers, Henderson might just be playing outside linebacker basically. So
Yeah.
we'll see what that looks like.
Right.
And yeah, second key, just secondaries has to have a good game. Can't, have any busts in coverage because the way this offense is set up, they do run so many plays that eventually they're just going to hit one. That's just how it happens because just the percentage is that way. So you have to play mistake free. Doesn't have to be like tight coverage. It's not like we're going to, shut them down every single pass play, but, don't give them anything for free basically. And then offensively, really just keeping up with the balance attack. This is the game, like I said, that we just can't take the step back here. It kind of feels like it'd be demoralizing. And then I feel like part of our, it's cliche, but like what's really going to help this defense is our offense just staying on the field and actually winning the time of possession, which I feel like we have not done. And that's really uncharacteristic for the PJ Fleck team. But like I said, with Maryland, the way their offense is set up, like they're just high volume. Like eventually they're going to get one, the more chances they get. So the less they're on the field, the fewer plays they have, it's more likely they don't hit one of those big plays, and that's going to work out for us. So if we can do all those things, starting out quick, hopefully the crowd's into it early, being homecoming, get a little bit rowdy, we'll see. But I think the Gophers can win this one. I've got us 24-20 Gophers.
I like it. Thank you for mentioning starting out quick because I meant to talk about that as well with the offensive line because they did that against USC. I think UCLA was a slight. They definitely did it against UCLA, but UCLA just came out blitzing the crap out of them. So I give them a slight pass for that. But I think most games they have just started out slow, which is the frustrating thing because they did put together a couple drives even against Michigan. I know Michigan wasn't their best game, but fast start's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
one
like
last thing too.
Yeah.
This kind of comes back to time of possession and just overall field position. Maryland's got a good punter. That's probably not talked about a ton, but
we don't. Big Ten. But we do have Coy Parrish, who's going to flip that field for us. He's already. What was the stat? He's already got the most punt return yards since like
the 50s or something.
Yeah, like 1955 or 1957. And he's got like two notable ones. Like I think that's how our punt game is gone. Punt return game is gone. It is terrible.
But so just something else to note. Like I think he's one of the better ones in the country in terms of like yards per punt.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Every year I feel like we'll talk about. I mean, we do talk about it, but it's just like. By this point of the year, we're always at the same point. We're just like, same old story. That's just where we're at, have the disadvantage against somebody like special teams, like something to overcome, which is kind of sad in year 8. But hey, they're trying new stuff. Coy's got it turned around in the return game. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, just keep that fire from the past 2 wins going, and I think that this next last bit of the season will look good for these Gophers. But with that, everyone, it's your favorite time of the podcast, the Sky U Pod Parlay of the week, coming off the bye week. We did have a private Sky U Pod Parlay. We didn't.
We posted it on X.
Okay. Well, we apologize.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I apologize. Mine was off completely. Tried to go for those early week games, but didn't work out. But today's a new week, and fellas, boy oh boy, do I have a good one for you, like always. This one surprised me, and I know that maybe you both won't like it, but on Saturday at 2:30 p.m., the
Are you stealing my game?
Oklahoma State Cowboys are on the road against Baylor. And you know what? Baylor is 7-point favorites. Now look, Oklahoma State, they're on this 4-game losing streak. We saw the BYU game, that heartbreaker, that thought that they'd win that game. They didn't. I think that they're due for a win. Baylor is not that great of a team either. They're both 3-4. I just think the Cowboys can cover that 7-point spread, guys. Give me Oklahoma State and the 7 points.
I like it.
Take it.
I like it because you picked it, and you've been better at this than I have. I'm not going to say they were like top 5, but I did look at that game long and hard and think about picking Baylor. But anyway, that's okay. Because I believe Baylor is coming off a big win last week, aren't they? That was my only rationale.
Smoked someone.
Yeah.
More worried about Oklahoma State's injuries, but they still looked good. I mean, BYU, a tougher game than Baylor.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Extra day of rest, right? That was a Friday night game.
That's right. All right. I was kicking mine around, as you guys know from the group chat. I wasn't sure. But then I found one. I'm like, yeah, it just makes too much sense. I believe Iowa hosts Northwestern this week. And it's a 13.5-point favorite for Iowa. I like the Hawkeyes to get the job done. Northwestern was completely shut down by Wisconsin last week. Yes, Badgers have a pretty solid defense, but I like Iowa's defense more. I know Michigan State found some success last week. I just don't think Northwestern has that same firepower on offense as Sparty. So give me the Hawkeyes to get the job done. Taking the Hawks minus 13.5. I picked them once and they failed me against Iowa State. This is a little different. Don't let me down, Hawks. Or do and make my day.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Always tough for a Kinnick, right?
Yep.
Yeah, for mine, I guess short and sweet. So I take BYU minus 1.5 on the road at UCF. UCF is fine, but kind of scrambling a little bit. Almost beat Iowa State. UCF's on their third quarterback. They're trying to figure that out. And BYU has just been on a roll. Like we said, extra day of rest coming off the Friday night game. I mean, is it a look ahead with Utah the next week? I don't think you can be in it. If you're BYU, like every game has got to be the biggest game of the season right now. Like you've got the Big 12 title in your grasp. You've got the playoff. Like, I don't know. 1.5, like just win. Just beat them. It's nothing.
That's right.
I like it.
You're nothing.
There you have it.
On.
That is what you need to put your money on to make money, everybody. One day we'll get you a promo code.
Yeah, FanDuel.
Guaranteed.
Hit us up.
Yep. Let's make some picks, fellas. We got some pretty good games this weekend. Let's start out west. East versus West. Rutgers is on the road at USC. USC is 14-point favorites. I think I like USC for this one. Yes, they're on life support. We know that they haven't been looking good, but this Rutgers team, Kurt mentioned it earlier in the show, they've kind of fallen apart a little bit. Now, I just think USC's firepower is going to be a little too much for them. They're dying for a win. Lincoln Riley will have them ready. I'll take USC in the 14 points.
I'll do the same. Yeah, I'll do the same. I don't feel good about that game. Like, I'm not putting my own money on that, but like if Rutgers can just line up and run the ball, then it's like, oh crap, like Rutgers might win. But I'm with you. I'm going USC.
Yeah.
Rutgers is too hurt.
And that's just you're going all the way across the country to basically play at midnight on a Friday if you're Rutgers. So
tough.
I don't know.
Tough. All right. Sticking here in the Big Ten, Washington is at Indiana, a hot Indiana team. and Indiana is 6.5 point favorites. Um, fellas, I think I'm going to go Washington here. I think Indiana still win this game, but I think they're due for a close one, and maybe this one's it. So give me the Huskies.
Yeah, the thing that scares me is their quarterback's out this game. I just I'm gonna go Hoosiers, and I don't feel good about it, but I just think I was really impressed because I still am, I think, a full believer in Nebraska's defense of that team. I wasn't buying in that Huskers were gonna make the playoff or anything this year. I think only those people in Lincoln thought that, but um, I was just really impressed with what their offense did. Just super balanced, rushing and throwing. Yes, a backup quarterback, but I still think they'll be able to lean on that run game a little bit. I know Washington's got a good front as well, but Indiana just hasn't really shot themselves in the foot, and Washington has done that a lot. So I'm going to go Hoosiers.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Indiana at home as well. Yeah, Curtis Rourke. I think they said he's out indefinitely now because he had surgery on his thumb.
I think they
So
were hoping for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, yeah, that's interesting, and that's like, man, Indiana
The
sitting at the top of
Heisman
the Big
contender,
Ten. Yeah, and then
a
this.
distant one, but odds wise, he's
Right.
top 10 right now.
Yeah, that is crazy. It is too bad, but I mean, they're a well coached team, and like you said, they can still run the ball. So
I love their coach. I love everything. He
yeah,
looks so angry the whole time, but he just
Signetti.
gets them. They're just ready to rock and roll the whole time, which is great to see.
This might sound crazy, but in a way, is it like with their quarterback being out, are they just gonna be that much more like they have to be like locked in and perfect so that they know they can't make a mistake? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, good coaches would do that, and he's shown every bit of being a good coach. So we'll see.
Yep. All right, transitioning here to the independent schools. We got Notre Dame at Navy.
Give me
Notre
Navy,
Dame's
Yeah.
America.
I'm going to go with them Irish, 12.5 point favorites. After Notre Dame lost that terrible loss to Northern Illinois, they've been looking pretty good. Granted, it's not really against the greatest teams in the college football landscape, but they're putting it together, so I got the Irish.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Navy as well. It feels like bait. Like it feels like the line should be bigger, and it's not, which makes me think somebody knows something. But it is in where are they? Annapolis. They're in Maryland, right? Navy
Yeah, I think
over
so.
there. But
I think they're
take Navy. I mean, this is their game. Like they're gonna be going crazy for this one. And it's
Yeah,
11 a.m. right? Like it's early.
I think so.
Cool. All right, going to the SEC. Missouri is at Alabama. Alabama's 13.5 point favorites. Man, this one's a little tough for me, but I think I'm going to go Bama. Bama's been kind of not looking to form as they have been for the past, 15 years or so.
Yeah,
However, I do think that they'll turn it up here. I think that coach will kind of get them going and playing their best football in this game. So give me Bama.
I keep waiting for that first half team against Georgia to come back because I thought, wow, Bama might actually just win it all even without Saban,
Yeah.
but they have not gotten back to that point, and even after the loss, they haven't looked cleaned up. Like the loss against Vandy, they didn't really come back strong. So that's a pretty big size spread, and I know Missouri looks like kind of a paper tiger right now, but I'm just going to pick them to cover just because it is 13.5 points.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Missouri too. I know last game Brady Cook he had to like go to the hospital to get an MRI
And then
and
he
then
came
came back,
back.
won the
Yeah.
game, which it sounded like he said like he knows he's only got so many games left, so there was no way he wasn't going to come back. It's a pretty cool story, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Overall, I feel like this could just be a low enough scoring game that 13.5 is huge. But
Sure.
I don't know. It is both of these teams. It's like what are you?
Like
Are
if
you
Bama
good?
plays to its best, I feel like they could
Oh
win
yeah,
4 touchdowns. Like,
right.
but
Mhm.
Vegas knows.
They always
Wait,
know something.
I just want to use this to get up on a stool. I just point out, Ohio State, Oregon, that was a huge game, lived up to the hype. I would argue Penn State, Illinois, while low scoring, that was a very competitive game that lived up to its hype. Georgia and Alabama was great. Don't get me wrong. But Georgia versus Texas and Alabama versus Tennessee, they just didn't live up to it. I didn't think those were, Georgia Texas was all right, but the Bama Tennessee game was so sloppy and just so many
Yeah.
mistakes were being made. Like, I still liked watching it. Don't get me wrong, but like, I feel like if it was any other conference, they would have gotten shamed for that performance for what was supposed to be one of the biggest games of the year. Even Georgia, Texas, like, the refs just making up when you can change calls on the field to try and get Texas back into it. Georgia shut them down in the end and won and basically dominated that majority of that game. I know it got a little close there, but what I'm trying to say is the Big Ten's a better product. Carry on.
Speaking of the Big Ten, Illinois is on the road at Oregon. The Ducks are 21.5-point favorites. Give me the Ducks. I
It's a
know that's
huge
a
spread.
lot, and it's a huge spread, and Illinois is a solid team, but going on the road to Autzen against this hot Oregon team, I'm just going to have to go with the Ducks.
I just think it's too many points.
Yeah.
I think
I
I
mean,
lean Illinois.
I'm going to go
But
Illinois as
they've,
well.
I don't know. Is Illinois in a look ahead spot?
Yeah. Brett's looking ahead and it's like, oh, I got my automatic win the week after this. That's cool. So let's sell out here. I don't know. I also don't feel good about this. How much better is Penn State than Oregon? Because that was a 14-point game. They think about a touchdown or a little more. And so I don't know. Oregon could dominate the whole game and Illinois still get a backdoor cover with 21.5. So that's why I'm going to stick with Illinois for this. But I think Oregon gets it done. I hope it's a very physical game, not rooting for injuries. I just hope Illinois is worn down for when we face them the following game.
Right on. And finally, back to the SEC. LSU is on the road at Texas A&M. A&M's actually 2.5-point favorites, and I'm going to go with LSU covering that spread. Yeah, not much else to say about that.
I like
LSU is
A&M.
almost.
Go ahead.
LSU is almost my lock. I'm gonna go with them, but it makes no sense to me why they're an underdog here. I mean, Texas A&M is
Because
fine, but
11th, the 12th man. The 12th man in that stadium
very
at night.
lost.
It's a tough stretch. They lost what?
They lost at home to Notre Dame.
Yeah, but then they destroyed Missouri.
True.
And that was a close game against Notre Dame. And now it's looking like
Yeah.
maybe Notre Dame's a legit team. I'm just saying maybe some of us, myself included, wrote off A&M a little bit quicker than anticipated. I just feel like LSU's coming off a tougher gauntlet. I think Arkansas is a solid team. They just came off Arkansas and then almost the week before that. To go out and win at A&M now, that would be really impressive. Not saying they can't do it. I'm just going to take the Aggies at home.
You make great points, Kurt.
Thanks.
LSU by 20.
Yeah. I figured that was coming.
Well, everyone, as always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of SkyU Pod. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please go ahead and check out our partner's website, thecollegehuddle.com, for many more college football podcasts and articles. As always, please like and subscribe our videos. Leave comments below. Let us know what you think. Get a part of the conversation. We love to interact with all of you and talk some Gopher football. But with that, thanks for tuning in. Good night. We love you. Go, go.